Award-winning broadcast journalist Ed Marshall asks the tough questions you want answered. Informative, soul-stirring, one-on-one interviews about matters that affect our lives in this region we call home. Here now with Conversations is Ed Marshall.
Hello and welcome to Conversations. So glad you could join us. I dare not say I'm going to introduce this person because this person has already been introduced and well known throughout New Orleans. I had the distinguished honor of being told that, and they listed me with her, and I was like, oh, I'm not worthy, that she and Hoda and myself were three of the people that were moving about New Orleans. This was like years ago, and doing some really good things. Well, I accept it. But of course, she really does, and she's moved on to CBS Saturday mornings, and say hello to everybody, and that's Miss Michelle Miller. It's so glad to have you back in town.
I'm thrilled to be here. You know I come back quite a bit.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Love my town.
I love
my town.
And I got a chance to work with you on the Leah Chase documentary, and that was such a warm piece that we did at WLAD.
I am so honored to have been a part of that and to have been through the process. It was not an easy process, and it was a labor of love. And we all just were thrilled. It is an honor.
And I tell you, she just loved people and loved us.
She did. She did in every way, and showed it as much as she could.
As much as she could. Well, we're here to talk about, you're down for the Tulane Book Fest, and you're going to be one of the presenters, and you've decided to write a book that's very, very, very revealing about yourself. My wife and I were watching your show from New York about a couple of months ago, and we saw that you did this piece. We was like, wow, had no idea. And we've been knowing you for years and had no idea.
I tell people, so for viewers to understand, this is a book about my origin story, and I am clearly my mother's secret, and it was not my secret to hold, but when I think about, you want me to hold the book?
Sure.
But when I would talk about, my family, I would never mention a mother. And either people never asked or they did ask, and I would always explain to them, across the stages of my life, what happened. And the answers were always truthful, but sometimes they were shorter, more terse than other times, right? Very vague, yes. So this is kind of like an all-out explanation.
What I like about the book, too, is that my frat brother, your husband, my good frat brother, Mark Morial, said, you've got to do something with this material because it's important for people and it can help other people.
And it already has. So many people have come up to me. They haven't even read the book.
Yeah.
And you want me to hold it? You want me to just keep it right here?
I've got some little dog ears.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Oh, look at you. But no, so many people have already approached me about, we share a similar story. That is my life story. I think Mark, when he learned of my relationship or lack of a relationship with my mother, he was fascinated by it, and he's told me for the last 25 years, you need to write about it. And the funny sort of serendipitous way I came to writing Belonging was that I was assigned a story 5 days after George Floyd's murder. And the story I was assigned by my producer was, we want you to describe in a retrospective piece all the stories of police, community policing, police shootings, community activism that you've covered over the last 25 years. And so I did that. 3.5 minutes, I just kind of ran down my impressions. I took a 20-second turn where I turned the camera on myself and said, racism has impacted my life from the very start. because I was raised by this loving family on my father's side, and to this day, no one on my mother's side knows I exist.
Wow, wow.
So a HarperCollins publisher saw the story, and 37 minutes after the story ran, she emailed me saying, "That was incredible, and I think you have a book." And thus began my journey in writing it. It's been 3 years, almost 3 years, from beginning to end, soup to nuts. I had an incredible co-author, Rosemarie Robotham, who, you know, I'm a journalist.
Right.
I don't know how to write about me.
It's difficult to write about yourself.
It is really difficult, but she helped mine these stories and memories, and she was really able to tell me what would resonate from my life in a way that was truly much more objective than how I thought. Things that I didn't think were important, she said, were crucial in the book.
So take us back. Well, take us back to the beginning, and let our viewers know, just kind of a chronicle it for us, how it all began with your mom and your father.
So my father would always describe my origin story in the third person. Your mother and your father fell in love. You came along. Your mother couldn't stay, and she left your father and you, and that was all he would ever tell me. And I would often find myself in situations when I got a little older. I passed kindergarten, where children noticed my grandmother was around, my father was around, and they'd inquire, "Where's your mother?"
Yeah.
And my father said to me, I answered once, "I don't have a mother." And my father was disturbed by that, and told me, and took me on a visit to go see her for the first time.
Wow. And you were like, what age then? 9?
I think I was 8 or 9.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll read more about it in the book, but I was a love child. My father was married to someone else. My mother was a Latina who was in a discovery of who she was and her Mexican roots at a time when, you know, a number of Latinx people were discriminated against in Southern California. Her family, though, wanted her. I can't put words into their mouths, but clearly made an ultimatum. They found out she was dating a black man.
Wow.
And said, "It's him or us."
Yeah, yeah. And even it's like a lot of the history of African Americans. When you're fairer, you tend to, the family kind of tends to move you along, and especially during those days.
Oh, definitely during those days. I think that, you know, that there's this sense of colorism throughout many marginalized communities all across the world that is an awful vestige of colonialism and slavery, in that, you know, the lighter, the whiter you are, the brighter you are, the more value you have, and that's not true. We know that's not true. It has, and yet certain people hold on to these notions, and it's, you know, I talk about it a bit in the book, because, you know, in my family, my identity, the subtext of the story is like finding who I was culturally. I know what my DNA is. Right. My DNA is a hodgepodge of European, Native American, and African ancestry, and I have more European DNA than I do African DNA.
It's scary. I did my little ancestry thing. They said most of it was English. I was like, oh no, I got to go back and research.
No, but I get it from both sides, because we are all children of the, I hate to say it this way, of the plantation. Of
plantations in the universe.
Yes, and there are love stories, and there are, but it's like we are a mixture of things from our African American sides, and so it's a complicated stir of conversations about race, about ethnicity, about identity, and when people see me, they would say, "Oh, what are you? And I'd say, I'm African American. And they say, yeah, but what else? And I said, well, you know, my mother was Hispanic.
Right,
and they say, I said, but let's be clear, I'm a black woman.
Well, right.
I'm a black woman, because those are my people who raised me and loved me and embraced me from a family sense. Were African American people.
And that reminds me of Halle Berry. She'd come in crying from school every day, and because people would say, well, what are you? Blah, blah, blah. She said her mother took her to a mirror and said, look at yourself. Who are you? She said, what do you look like? She said, I look like a black young lady. She said, that's what you are. And so she said after that, she was kind of calm as to who she was. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your wonderful dad and let people know a lot about him and some things he did that just makes the world so small. We'll be right back.
Spending 4 years to earn a degree and taking on a ton of debt, that's not for me. My choice is Delgado Community College. I can start my education, then go anywhere. A great career, more education, whatever I want to do. Delgado's been here for 100 years. It's a fully accredited comprehensive college. It's also a school where people can learn job skills quickly so they can earn more money fast. Don't let anything hold you back. I didn't, and I'm proud to say I'm a student at Delgado Community College. Education that works.
You know, I like the feedback that we get from our audiences, our audience rather. And of course, I've got a question before I get into Michelle's dad. They wanted to know, what is it about New Orleans that produces incredible people like yourself, like Hoda Kotb, and oh, they even put myself in there. And,
look at you.
And recently, Sheba Turk.
That's right.
What is it about New Orleans that kind of makes us, that kind of gets that inside of us out?
Because it's a gumbo.
Yeah.
You know, New Orleans is a hodgepodge, a mix, a stir of all kinds of people in heavy concentration. So it allows folks to not only be who they are, you have a provinciality about this town, you have a wildness about this town, it's the yin, the yang, and it just allows folks to be real.
Right.
And if you aren't real, you're not going to last very long.
No.
And folks like Hoda and Sheba and yourself, we real people.
And people can tell. I tell people all the time, people can tell real people watching that TV.
Oh,
they can tell if you're fake or not.
That's right. And you know, Sally Ann Roberts, who was my co-anchor, well, not my co-anchor, but you know, she was my mentor and my boo. She was in my wedding.
Yeah.
And she told me once, you know, she said, Michelle, don't worry about folks that we have to worry about in the business.
Right.
She said, you just stay in the favor of the people and you stay honest with them, and you're going to be okay.
That's right.
You're going to be okay. And I'll never forget telling Hoda right before she left WWL to go on to NBC, I stopped her and I said, aren't you, I mean, how are you feeling? And she said, I'm so nervous. She's like, am I doing the right thing? I think it was a reciprocal question.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I held her like this. I said, you were going to be a superstar.
That's right.
And she looked at me like in a totally unexpected kind of like, wait, what? Like, you would say, like, you know, like, you would say that? Like, you really, I was like, girl, I'm telling you. And so I'll never forget following her career. I was like, when are they going to get with it? Because like she was in that sort of box of Dateline. Yes. I was like, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get her multi-dimensionality. Yes. And they did. Like I think it took 3 or 4 years, but I mean, finally, it was like, and then she took off.
I'm so proud of her. But when it's back, I call Sally Ann everybody's mom almost, because
big sister.
She's big sister. You know?
She's so incredibly
honest and pure. Well, she's so incredibly her.
Well, her is, she is. There are no words to describe the kind, considerate, generous human being
And
that
that's
she
her all
is.
the time.
Completely.
Right.
Completely that.
I was walking downtown one day, and she was walking. I said, Sally Ann. She said, oh, Ann. You know, she does.
Yes.
I'm looking for this place to have a picture made of my mother. And it was the next block. She was kind of long. And she so appreciated. I said, look, I'll take you over there, you know. And that was right when they did the whole piece on the Tuskegee Airmen and all that.
Yes.
And it was
You know,
just
I
fabulous.
tried so hard to make her father's event at Newark Airport.
Yeah.
I was flying in from somewhere and my flight was late because I was going to fly in and just go straight to
yeah.
and it just wasn't meant to be. But I'm so proud of her parents.
Oh, yeah.
And so proud of her sister Robin.
Robin is super.
Superstar.
Yes.
Superstar Robin.
Right.
Superstar Robin.
Exactly.
But, yes.
And speaking of their father, let's talk about your dad. A lot of I was intrigued in the book and so proud. I was like, you know, as African Americans, we tend to be proud of our people who've done well. And when I read about your father, especially during the time that this was going on, right when he got out of Howard, and he was a surgeon, and I was like, oh my God, this is fabulous. Tell us more about your dad and his name and.
So my father was Dr. Ross Matthew Miller. He was junior, and his father was Ross Matthew Miller Sr., a principal, an educator who married my grandmother, Beatrice Bessie Burson Miller. And to understand my dad and me, you have to understand his mother, Beatrice, who graduated from Howard University in 1916, made sure that her son went to Howard University in 44, came out as a surgeon in 51. And if you do the math, that's 6 years. That's the kind of, like, these kids were so,
they were so bright.
They were so brilliant, given the chance, And so my dad was what we call a Renaissance man, and so many African American men at the time, like my mother-in-law's father,
right.
C.C. Heidel,
right,
who was not only a physician who also went to Howard University,
yes,
but was also had rule over the insurance company in the family,
right,
the funeral home. He was sort of, these people were activists, they were civic leaders, they were family men, and they took care of their community. And so my dad came from that cloth. He was cut from the same cloth, and was involved in politics, was the first black city councilman, one of two, to be elected to the Compton City Council, was a delegate in the 1968 Democratic Convention, and was supposed to be Robert Kennedy's delegate.
Right.
Campaigned with him in South Los Angeles along with Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson, and were so hopeful of this candidate for what he had stepped out and promised that he was going to do, and built a coalition of all kinds of people. There is the California primary win for Robert Kennedy was unimaginable at that time.
Yeah.
It was such a cross-section of communities in that room at the Ambassador Hotel, and folks were in a euphoria. So for the gunshots to ring out that night, and to go from exhilaration to just devastation, my dad ran to his side and was the first physician to get back to him.
That blew me away. That totally blew me away.
As a story, it was part of the lore of my family telling it. I remember trying to tell my son about, and my son looked at me and he said, "Mommy, I don't believe you. Prove it." And so I did. And he led me on this journey. My now 20-year-old son, Mason Morial, led me on this journey to discover a piece of my family history that I assumed, but never had any real photographic proof. And I was able to, it was a delightful journey that I went on with CBS News.
Tell us about how having your own children has really helped you belonging and helping you define who you are, since your mother was not there. And you tried to form a relationship with her after your dad was ill.
Right. My father told me, and I think my father told me, go find your mother when he got sick with cancer. And I think, you know, it released me to actually do just that. I don't think I ever really, you know, I think children of adoption might feel this. That there's some level of betrayal for those who did raise them, right. This need to go and seek out their birth
parents. I really want to see what's under there. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing is, the man who helped me find her, and it was a quick find because he did a search. I ran into after 30 years in Atlanta just 3 days ago.
Wow.
And he didn't remember this, but it was a quick search and a phone call. And I found her and she agreed to meet with me for an hour. I have to tell people, I was never angry that my mother left.
And I got that. I got that. It was.
But the anger came when I had my children, and the lack of recognition for that generation of her lineage, for some reason, it hurt my soul. Yeah. It hurt me, and it welled this anger about, or not. It was anger initially, and then it was this need for acknowledgement by her to her greater family.
Particularly for your children.
And my children, my daughter, who is like this very inquisitive 5-year-old, who, where is your mother? You don't talk about her.
Because I'm sure she would always see
Yes,
Sybil.
and so I told her, and I said, do you want to meet her? And she said yes. So I thank my mother for meeting my children, but still there was a block. So again, here it is. She has met me. She has met my children. She's met my husband. But still to this day, to my knowledge, no one knows I exist.
Wow. And from what the books and the people that she was supposedly, protecting her secret from, had all died. So
most had died. Her brother and her sister are still living, to my understanding. So they're cousins. And here's the irony is, she is on one of those DNA websites.
Oh, wow.
And I'm linked to her. And so there are all these cousins. And I'm wondering, what are they thinking when she shows up? And I don't know how it's seen to them.
Where are you?
Like, wait, who is this person? Like, wait, you know.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I'm wondering, maybe that's her way of saying, I do acknowledge you as I sit here in this moment. I'm thinking about that. It's funny, the epiphanies that kind of come to you through this process. But yeah, maybe that is her way to acknowledge without fully saying it out loud.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to take another quick break.
Another one?
Another one. This is the last one.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to have you wrap it up and really talk about your continuous need to reach out to her until you finally said, you know, I'm okay. We'll be right back, so stay with us.
Spending 4 years to earn a college degree and taking on a ton of debt, that's not for me. My choice is Delgado Community College. I can start my education and go anywhere. A great career, more education, whatever I want to do. Delgado's been here for 100 years. It's a fully accredited comprehensive college. It's also a school where people can learn job skills quickly so they can earn more money fast. Don't let anything hold you back. I didn't, and I'm proud to say that I am a student at Delgado Community College. Education that works.
We're back with Michelle Miller, who's written this fantastic book. It's a kind of a biography on her life called Belonging. Michelle, what are you hoping that the audience will walk away with once they read this?
One, they'll know who I am, and they'll know, I think for me, that you know, one, I wasn't alone in my journey, and they aren't either.
Yes.
Right? And that the ultimate end result of this book is I want everybody to know that no matter what their origin story is, where they are in their place, they belong. Right. They belong there. We all have insecurities, but you know, we make it through, and you don't have to let how you came into this world define how you end up in this world.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And of course, they're going to want to know more about Mark.
There's a lot of skinny folks, lots of good skinny about Mark and New Orleans and Howard University.
Yeah.
All of these chapters, and really, you know, there's serendipity in my life and connectivity in my life that I think really engages people to believe in the magic.
Yes. Of
our living, and I hope that, you know, they find a little bit of themselves in this book.
Yeah, and you said something really prolific for me in this book. It's like, you know, life is about the people that you keep along the way, but also about the people that you lost. They both make up who you are.
Oh yes,
yeah.
It's both the people who chose to stay.
Yeah.
It is the absence of those people who chose to leave. But you know, you create your life. You create the magic. You create your family. You create your community. And I've always been so, I've been so blessed to have all kinds of people in my life who supported me and continue to support me. So thank you. Thank you for helping me find my belonging.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming by, and you'll always be part of New Orleans and part of our heart. So come back, and if people haven't gotten this read, you've got to get it. So we're going to have to end this program for this month. And as I always tell you, do something good for yourself, do something good for someone else, and to stay in peace, not pieces. Until next month, take care, and we'll see you.